So here's my completely organic or non-GMO Thanksgiving shopping list. And I want to do some honorable mentions. I did chicken instead of turkey. Turkey, they weren't selling turkey pieces. And my little family can't consume a whole turkey, so I did the organic chicken. The molasses is going to be the primary sweetener, although I do have some brown sugar. And this is what made me want to do the video. The Hawaiian rolls, I cannot wait to see how they're going to taste. And instead of mustard greens, turnip greens, I'm going to do kale, organic sweet potatoes. So stay tuned. I have a lot to say. This is how I get started. Boil some water in the pots to do a little cleaning. Clean out the detergent. Some of these pots have not been used all year long. I'm going to mix the cabbage. I had some leftover frozen cabbage and the kale together. I forgot to mention this. This is organic cabbage. So here is the kale, the first bag of kale mixed in. There's the cabbage down there. And to this, I'm going to put in, this to add flavoring. Instead of water all the way around. So this is what I'm going to put in the kale, some garlic, and I'm going to cut those up. Okay, so my hands have been thoroughly cleaned, and these are organic garlics, and I'm going to cut them up and peel the shell off of them. This is one of 5 garlics. And I'm just going to dice this up and add this to my greens. And I'm going to do all the other ones just the same way. Last bit of garlic. I'm just going to mix that around. So I did not buy enough broth, which I brought the chicken broth so that it could add flavor. So I'm going to have to use some of the vegetable broth as well because this is too dry of a green. I like 2 of the chicken broths, but this is all I have. So instead of using this in the other thing that I was going to put it in, I'm going to go ahead and add it a little bit more, but still needs some moisture. So I'm going to add some water to this. It matters, whatever water source someone uses is fine. But this year I'm going to use this distilled water. And I'm just going to bring this up until it sort of covers the greens. I think that's about right. So I'm going to add some more flavoring to this a little later, but for right now, I'm going to let it cook all by itself for about 30 minutes. So the very next thing is the candied yams. This is a little bit of a better angle. I had to change the filming location, but I'm just going to cut these yams until as close to the skin as possible. I get all of the skin off of them. Being careful to save the delicious parts. This is my favorite food, by the way. This and sweet potato pie. I have, here's a yam. So here's a yam that I have rinsed off in water. And now I'm going to cut these in slices. The thicker they are, the longer they'll have to cook. So I'm going to try to cut these in even slices, straight across. And cut them kind of thin so they don't have a major cooking time. So you can see these are all about the same size. And I'm just going to do all of them this way until I have them all cut up. Here are all of my cut up candied yams. And now I'm going to add the water. I'm going to be honest and say that it's a little weird having to pour in water when I was a kid. But I haven't put in that much water, just enough to cover the bottom, probably about a half of an inch or 3/4 of an inch of water in the pot. And this is going, the yams are going to produce their own water, and the water level is going to increase. Cooking this on a high level the whole time. And this is what the greens are on. And this is going to cook for several hours. So here are the ingredients for the candied yams. Some organic butter. It's about 4 tablespoons. You can see that. Light drizzling of organic vanilla extract. Brown sugar, molasses, and cinnamon. Okay, so the yams have heated up a little bit, and I'm going to put half of this butter in here. So I'm going to put half of this butter in here before it actually starts cooking. I'm trying to do this with one hand. And then I'm going to put the other half in there after it starts cooking. And I have in the past used a whole stick of butter, but I'm not going to be picky about it because it's, it's what I had remaining. It's what I had left over. So I'm going to let this be in there. And then I'm going to generously cover it with the cinnamon. And I'm going to put more in there, but this is good for now. And then for the sake of the recipe, I'm going to measure out the sugar that I use. Give me just a moment. So taste is number one when you're eating organic. And let's see if you can see this. And see what that tastes like of the brown sugar. So I've packed this in. And level it off. And I'm going to put that in there as well. And then I'm going to add the vanilla extract. And you don't need a lot of this. I would say 1/8 of a teaspoon. But I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of this in it. A little goes a long way. And that's about it for the vanilla extract. And I'm going to let this cook a little bit before I add the blackstrap molasses. Okay, so now it's time for me to prepare the chicken. And I know that there are all sort of things that you're supposed to avoid when dealing with raw meat, raw chicken specifically. So I'm going to restore it in the container. I never throw it in the trash can. I'm going to leave it in the refrigerator, wrapped in this bag until trash day, when I'll put it in the trash can. But I'm also going to clean the chicken in this water, and I'm going to bleach this bowl out afterwards. So let me get started with the chicken. So I have thighs here. That's not going to do any real major cleaning. I'm just going to make sure that the water gets on them. And then I'm going to put them in the pan. I've actually washed my hands again. And I'm going to be careful not to touch any of this. And I'm just going to tie this in a knot and stick it in the refrigerator until trash day. Here's the chicken. And for flavoring reasons, I'm going to put a little olive oil on it, as well as season this with little organic turmeric. So there is the turmeric. I did not measure it out. I believe real cooks don't use measurements, but here's the turmeric. And then I have some organic seasoning salt. And it has a lot of different seasonings in there. And then, of course, I have organic black pepper. Put that in there. And then some non-GMO sea salt. Sprinkle that in there lightly. With my washed hand, I'm going to just mix the chicken in with the seasoning, like so. The seasoning, a lot of the seasoning is going to be no doubtably left inside of this bowl. And then I'm going to put it inside of the cooking dish. And I've already preheated my oven to 425. So here is the chicken. Put a little bit more black pepper on it. And I'm going to cover the top of it with aluminum foil. So hopefully this step will allow the chicken to keep a lot of its moisture. The yams are ready to be checked on. And like I said, the more water was created. And I didn't stir anything around initially because I knew it was going to, the water was going to rise and mix the ingredients for me. So at this time, I'm going to add the blackstrap molasses and the other butter. I didn't mention it, but I want to put some more, clearly, I need some more cinnamon in here. And the other butter. I'm not going to mix it around, it's going to mix itself around. And then the molasses. Probably a tablespoon of molasses. I'm going to put the top on it and allow this to self-stir and cook for about an hour. Okay, now it's time to make the macaroni and cheese. I picked these because they didn't have the regular noodle shells, but it doesn't matter. It's all going to taste the same. And I've already got my pot bubbling. It needs to bubble a little bit more, But I'm going to go ahead and put the noodles in anyway, and then turn my temperature gauge up to an 8. So I'm pouring in the noodles, and I'm pouring them randomly based on my container, trying to gauge how much would fill my whole container. And I think it's going to take basically the whole box. Uncovered. The skin is soft, so I'm going to put it back in on the top rack so that this can crispy up a little bit. So I'm going to put it back in the oven for about maybe 15 minutes. I ran into a little filming difficulty. The filming device ran out of battery, so I'm having to take pictures to show the rest of my meal. So this is the mac and cheese, which was the last thing to get ready because it's the shortest cooking time. And I have my noodles in my Tupperware container. I throw in 2 eggs, organic free-range eggs. So the very next thing is the cream. You can do half and half. I did non-dairy this year. The coconut milk, you cannot taste it inside of the macaroni and cheese. It's not organic, but it is non-GMO. So I will consume some choice things that are only non-GMO. So I add the milk, and then I'm going to add 6 tablespoons of butter. Someone is free to add a whole stick. Mix that in. The noodles are hot. Stir it around, mixing in the cheese, the cream, the eggs, seasoning, black pepper, sea salt, and then I'm going to add the cheese. This is cheddar. This is mozzarella. And I'm going to mix those in, and the noodles are still hot at this point. And then this is just for flavor. I'm adding the Mexican shredded cheese, and it's a combination of 3 cheeses, I believe. Mix that in. It's dry at this point, so I'm going to have to add some moisture. And I'm going to choose almond milk. And so I'm going to pour that in the next frame you'll see there now the moisture is there. It's going to dry out as it cooks. And I'm going to put it on the first rack. And then I'm finally going to put it on the top rack to cook for an additional 20 minutes. There it is, complete. So here is the final product. Here goes my chicken. Here goes my candied yams. This is the glorious macaroni and cheese. And here goes my kale and cabbage. Here is the healthy meal proportion for my son. Half of the piece of chicken. His favorite, I'm sure he'll get seconds of this, macaroni and cheese. A little bit of yam. The biggest portion is always the greens and cabbage. And then here is my meal proportion. Does she eat? Yes, she does. And it's the macaroni and cheese, a lot of yam, a lot of greens, and the other half of that chicken breast. Thanks for watching. Happy Thanksgiving.